Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much.
What if the very things you avoid are the keys to your growth? What if the struggle you fear is the test that forges your strength? And what if comfort, the thing you chase, quietly destroys the man you were meant to become? You are not meant to wait until life feels easy. Growth begins when you push yourself into discomfort over and over until it becomes your edge. The hard battles you try to escape are the exact ones that shape the future version of yourself. Each time you press forward, your mind hardens, your willpower strengthens, and your confidence multiplies. You don't rise by chance. You rise because you train yourself to confront what others run from. Soon, I will show you how to force yourself to do hard things and build an unshakable mindset. You were never created to stay comfortable. There is a silent killer of greatness, and its name is comfort. Choosing ease may feel safe, but every time you step away from challenge, you don't just stall your growth, you delay your destiny. You were not born to drift downstream. You were born to push against the tide, to face resistance, to battle the odds. There is no reward in staying where it's familiar. The man who seeks comfort first will always serve the man who endures discomfort for something greater. And what is comfort, truly? Nothing but the illusion of safety. The more you chase it, the further you drift from who you are meant to become. Avoid hard things, and you grow weaker. Embrace them, and you sharpen. So how do you break this quiet addiction to ease? Start each morning by confronting yourself with one simple question. Am I living as a man who expands or a man who shrinks? Then choose one thing today that stretches you, one thing that demands more than you feel ready to give, and do it. Not tomorrow, today. Imagine waking before the sun. The air is cold, the bed is warm, and no one would know if you stayed. Yet you rise, step into the chill, train, work, and think. While the world still sleeps, it begins to bend toward you because you moved while others stood still. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you did something not because it was easy, but because it was necessary? Strength is built the same way you lift heavy weights. It doesn't come from what feels natural, but from what demands effort. A man's will is no different than his muscle. If you never lift what is heavy, you remain weak. But when you force yourself to carry what feels unbearable, you become a man who cannot be broken. Progress never comes from a life that feels light. Everything worth building requires a burden. That burden may be responsibility, discipline, or persistence. The weight is not meant to be avoided, but carried. And what are these heavy things? They are the habits you resist, but desperately need, the sacrifices no one else sees. It's the self-denial that whispers, not now, when your impulse screams, yes. These are the weights that shape your mind, your character, your legacy. So how do you begin? Start by facing what you've been avoiding. Then, one by one, pick it up and carry it, daily, until pain turns into purpose and resistance becomes your reward. Picture this, a man alone in a workshop. His hands are calloused, his shirt drenched, his back aching, yet he keeps building. One plank, one nail, one hard-earned hour at a time. Others laugh at his struggle, but months later, when storms arrive, they rush to the shelter he created. Now let me ask you, are you willing to hurt a little each day so you don't suffer for a lifetime? The hard path teaches what comfort never can. No book can give these lessons, no teacher can explain them. They are carved into you through sweat, setbacks, and silent struggle. Most men crave the rewards of greatness, but avoid the path that creates it. They want wisdom without mistakes, power without pressure, mastery without pain. But life doesn't work that way. Every great man you admire bled for it. And what does the hard path truly give? It gives you clarity, focus, self-respect. It forces you to meet your real self. The one who shows up when everything hurts and nothing goes right. Choosing the hard path means you stop asking, will this be easy? And start asking, will this make me stronger? That shift turns pressure into preparation and setbacks into sharpening stones. Picture this. Two men enter a forest. One follows the smooth, flat trail. The other climbs the steep path, clawing through thorns, slipping on stone. At the top, only one sees the view. The other circles below, comfortable, but unchanged. So tell me, do you want the life that feels comfortable or the one worth remembering? True self-belief begins when you do what you once thought you couldn't. There is a power inside you that you have not yet met. Not because it isn't there, but because you haven't challenged it enough to awaken. You think you know your limits, but you only know your routines. Confidence is not given. It is earned every time you face something you weren't sure you could survive. It grows in the silence between effort and doubt. The only way to discover your true strength is to go where fear tells you to stop. Why do so many men move through life uncertain of themselves? Because they've never tested what's inside. They've never dared to act while trembling. They've waited for permission to feel ready, but readiness is a lie. Belief comes after action, never before. You must act like the man you want to become long before you feel like him. So try this. Choose a task you've avoided: public speaking, physical hardship, a difficult conversation, and do it now. Your hands may shake, your voice may tremble, but when it's done, you'll walk away knowing something new. You didn't die. You didn't break. You grew. Picture stepping into a ring you've never entered. Your opponent is fear, yet you swing anyway. Even if you stumble, you leave with something greater than victory. You leave with belief. So ask yourself, are you waiting to believe in yourself before you act? Or will you act first and let belief follow? Your future hides behind one hard decision. Every man faces a moment when the path quietly splits. No grand announcement, no voice from the sky, just a shift in your gut, a sense that the choice before you carries the weight of your entire future. This is the hinge, the turning point of destiny. It may wear the disguise of discomfort, risk, or even loss, but it is none of these. It is the invitation to become the man you are meant to be. The tragedy is that most men hesitate, not because they are weak, but because they overthink. They feel the pull, but they don't move. They tell themselves they need more time, more clarity, more courage, but none of that comes. The moment demands decision, not perfection. While they wait for fear to vanish, the opportunity slips away. Their future fades like a door slowly closing behind them. Here's the truth. No great man ever waded his way into greatness. He chose it. He stepped into it. He felt the same fear, the same doubt, but refused to let it stop him. While others paused, he acted. While others looked back, he moved forward. And in that choice, he changed everything. Sometimes the only difference between an ordinary life and a legendary one is the decision to move. You already know the decision waiting for you. Maybe it's walking away from comfort. Maybe it's ending what feels easy and beginning what feels uncertain. Or maybe it's finally devoting yourself fully to the dream you've been circling around. You don't need anyone to name it. You felt it all along. That pressure in your chest, that quiet frustration with staying the same, that is the sign. Picture a man before two doors. One is familiar, bright, safe, praised by everyone. The other is dark, silent, uncertain. The world tells him to choose the first. It's easier, safer. Yet something deep inside won't let him. He knows the second door holds the man he's meant to become. Not because it promises success, but because it demands growth. So he reaches out, not with certainty, but with readiness to face it, to fail if he must, to rise beyond who he's been. So ask yourself, what door are you standing in front of? And how much longer will you wait before opening it? Do the work when no one is watching. Success doesn't arrive with applause. It isn't handed out under bright lights or earned with clever words. It is born in silence, in the early mornings, the late nights, the hidden moments when no one sees. While others boast or sleep, you grind, you study, you sharpen, you grow. You do it with no audience, no praise, no guarantees, because deep down you know a timeless truth. The man who builds in silence will one day be seen by all. Not because he demanded attention, but because he became undeniable. Most people never reach their true potential. It isn't from lack of talent, but from craving attention more than transformation. They show up only when someone is watching. They work only for applause. They chase recognition instead of results, and when the crowd disappears, so does their effort. They were never driven by purpose. They were performing for praise. And that's why they fade. Their strength was borrowed, not built. But you cannot walk that path. You must train yourself to act the same in darkness as you would in light, to keep showing up when no one will ever know. Because if you can persist without recognition, without validation, without anyone cheering, you've already won. Why? Because success is not about being seen. It's about being ready when the world finally turns its eyes on you. What does that look like? It's the man who wakes before dawn, not to post about it, but to prepare. It's the one who reads while others relax, who trains while others sleep, who refines long after others have plateaued. This is the discipline of the invisible, the relentless, silent repetition that always precedes greatness. It isn't glamorous, it isn't loud, but it's real and it's rare. Picture a blacksmith alone in his forge, no audience, no encouragement, just steel and sweat, hammer and flame. Day after day, he shapes, molds, and perfects. The village hears the noise, but sees nothing. They don't know what's being formed, but he does. And when the time is right, he opens the door. What emerges isn't just a sword, it's mastery, crafted not in a moment, but in 1,000 silent hours. So ask yourself honestly, are you still waiting to be noticed? Or are you becoming so great in private that the world will have no choice but to recognize you? No one is coming to save you. You must decide. There comes a moment in every man's life when the illusion shatters, the illusion that someone else is coming to rescue him. That moment is quiet but powerful. It's when you finally understand. No mentor, no savior, no perfect circumstance will hand you the life you want. No applause will greet your first step. No map will mark your next one. You must rise alone. You must decide, this is on me. Yet most men wait. They wait for the right time, for someone wiser to lead, for fear to disappear, for opportunity to knock. But waiting only wastes. Time slips away while they search for signs. What they don't realize is that the breakthrough they're hoping for won't come from the outside. It begins the moment they take full responsibility. Not partial, not only when it's easy, but total responsibility regardless of the circumstances. That is where everything changes. That's the pivot point where life begins to move in your favor. Not because it suddenly became easy, but because you stopped surrendering control. You stopped pointing fingers, stopped asking, why is this happening to me? And started asking, what will I do with this? The shift from blame to ownership is where your power begins. You may not control the chaos, but you control your response. And in the end, your response shapes your reality. So what does this look like in daily life? It means you don't wait for motivation. You create it through action. You move even when your body resists. You lead yourself when it's raining, when it's hard, when it's lonely. That is the mark of the man who rises. He doesn't wait until he feels ready. He decides and does, because his commitment is stronger than his comfort. Imagine a sailor lost at sea. The sky is black, no stars, no compass. The storm howls, the waves crash. He doesn't know where he is or which direction is right, but he knows one thing. Stillness means death. So he grabs the oars and rows. Not because he is fearless, not because he is confident, but because motion is survival. Every stroke, every pull, brings him closer to land. That is you. That is your mission. You row through doubt, through pain, through fog, because movement is power and stillness is surrender. You don't need a rescuer. You don't need perfect clarity. What you need is the courage to begin rowing today, not tomorrow. Every moment you spend waiting is a moment you could have spent becoming. The man who doesn't fold, who doesn't flinch, who faces life head-on and says, I may not have the map, but I will not stay here. So let me ask you, with nothing but truth between us, are you still waiting for rescue? Or have you finally decided to row toward the man you're meant to become? Discipline is the shortcut you've been avoiding. Every man desires success and wants it quickly, but most look in the wrong direction. They chase shortcuts, hacks, and easier roads. They pursue comfort disguised as strategy, yet the only real shortcut is the one most ignore, discipline. Not the kind that shouts for attention, but the quiet, daily kind. The kind that makes no noise but delivers undeniable results. Discipline doesn't cut corners, it cuts waste. It slices through delay, distraction, and indecision, carving a path straight to the reward. While others wander aimlessly, the disciplined man walks with direction. Still, many reject it, calling it harsh, boring, or too much. What they fail to see is that the alternative is far more painful. Undisciplined living carries its own steep price. Regret, confusion, missed chances, emotional fatigue, a scattered mind, a drifting body, and a spirit that forgets its strength. These consequences don't appear overnight. They creep in slowly until one day you wake up wondering where your power went. Discipline is not punishment. It is a shield, a weapon, the armor that protects your vision in a world full of temptation. What is it really? It's choosing what matters most over what feels easy now. It's delaying short-term pleasure to build long-term fulfillment. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting. It's self-control repeated until it becomes identity. Not once, not when convenient, but daily, especially when no one sees, especially when no one else is doing it. And how do you develop it? You don't begin by trying to master life. You begin by mastering an hour, one disciplined hour where you command your focus and refuse distraction. From there, you stretch into a day, then a week, until discipline feels less like a struggle and more like a rhythm, like a muscle that strengthens with repetition. You guide your thoughts before they wander, act on decisions before doubt speaks, train your body to serve your vision instead of your feelings. Soon, what once felt like a burden becomes your greatest advantage. Picture this: a man stands before a vast jungle, thick, wild, endless. Many rush in with dull blades, hacking at random, sweating, shouting, lost. They waste motion, lose direction, grow tired. But this man is different. He sharpens his blade every morning, studies the map, plans his steps. Each swing of his machete is precise. He knows where he's going and why. While others wander, he moves quietly and efficiently, not because he is stronger, but because he is disciplined. This is your choice. You can chase ease, join the crowd, and keep cutting wildly through life. Or you can become the man who sharpens his blade, acts with purpose, and shows up every single day. So ask yourself with brutal honesty, are you still chasing comfort? Or are you ready to sharpen the blade that cuts through chaos? Your pain has a purpose. If you keep going, pain is not your enemy. It's not punishment, not a sign that something is wrong. Pain is a messenger, a mirror, a forge. It is the teacher most men run from, and the only one that teaches what comfort never can. Pain strips away illusion, silences excuses, and demands presence. If you endure long enough, if you stay in the fire without fleeing, you'll discover what it reveals, the part of yourself you never knew, the part that doesn't break, the part that builds. Yet most men turn back the moment pain begins, the sting of failure, the ache of loneliness, the burn of discipline. They see these not as lessons, but as signals to stop. They flinch, they retreat, they tell themselves, this must mean I'm not ready. But pain doesn't mean stop, it means pay attention. It signals that something real is happening now. The man who stays in discomfort, who breathes through the burn and continues anyway, gains what no comfortable man ever will. He gains access to deeper strength, untapped focus, and a version of himself forged in fire, not created by ease but by endurance. You were not born fragile. You were born capable. You carry a mind that can stretch beyond emotion, a spirit that can hold weight. But that capacity isn't given freely. It must be drawn out. And pain is what draws it. Every breakthrough, every rise to a new level, every moment of true evolution is always preceded by discomfort. The greater the burn, the greater the build. Pain doesn't exist to harm you. It exists to transform you. So why does pain exist? To test your sincerity. It challenges your declarations. You say you want success, strength, peace, or power, and pain steps in to ask how badly. It measures your hunger. It separates the man who wishes from the man who works. It draws the line between fantasy and fight. And if you stay long enough, without complaint, without running, something incredible happens. Your old self begins to fall away, and your real self begins to rise. So what do you do with pain? You lean into it. You stop trying to avoid it. You breathe through it and say, you will not move me. And when the voice in your head screams to quit, you take one more step. Not because it's easy, not because it stops hurting, but because you've made a decision. This pain is yours to walk through, to master, and you will never hand that power to fear. Picture a man walking barefoot across burning coals. Every step is agony. His skin screams, his mind panics, but he keeps moving. Not because the pain disappears, but because his focus is locked on the other side. He doesn't fixate on the fire, he fixates on the finish. And when he reaches it, something inside shifts. He didn't lose anything. He gained confidence, resilience, and power, the kind only pain can give. Now ask yourself with complete honesty, what pain have you been avoiding? What challenge have you tiptoed around, hoping it would fade on its own? More importantly, what version of yourself is waiting on the other side if you stop running and walk through it? Pain will shape you, whether it breaks you or builds you. That part is your choice. The fire will come, but only the man who stands still inside it walks out unshakable. You are either growing or shrinking every single day, whether you notice it or not. You are always changing. The process is silent, invisible, but constant. Life has no neutral. You are never standing still. Every decision, every action, every thought is moving you somewhere. The only question is, are you moving toward your higher self or back into the man you've already outgrown? That is the quiet fork in the road you face each day. Yet too many forget this. They convince themselves standing still is safe, that coasting is enough. They believe they can maintain who they are, but that is the great lie. Nothing in this world stands still. The current of life is always moving, and if you are not growing, you are shrinking. Time moves, the world moves, the people around you change, challenges evolve. If you don't stretch, you don't remain the same, you decline. Muscles weaken without use. Confidence erodes through avoidance. Vision fades without action. Slowly, without realizing it, you begin to revert, not just into someone stagnant, but into someone less than you were meant to be. That is why growth is not optional. It isn't a luxury for those with spare time, or something you pursue only when life feels stable. Growth is a requirement, a discipline, a daily commitment you make with yourself. And make no mistake, it will never be easy. The hard thing is always the way forward. If something feels like resistance, if it terrifies you, if it forces you to evolve, that is your path. The obstacle is not blocking the way. The obstacle is the way. But what is growth really? It's not just consuming motivation. It isn't reading 10 books and feeling inspired for a moment. Growth is action, intentional, repeated action that demands something from you. It reshapes your thoughts, stretches your limits, and confronts your weakness with honesty. Growth is stepping into discomfort with courage. Growth is choosing progress over ease again and again. It's in the early morning you didn't want to face, the apology you resisted, the conversation you feared, the discipline you swore you'd begin tomorrow. Growth begins where comfort ends. To grow daily, you must move with intent. Treat each day like a test, a chance to stretch, expand, and reach. You don't need to transform overnight or overhaul your entire life in one decision. But you do need to ask yourself, what is one thing I can do today that forces me to grow? Maybe it's finishing that task you've been avoiding. Maybe it's standing up for yourself. Maybe it's stepping into discomfort, in the gym, on the stage, or even in the mirror. And once you find that one thing, you do it. Not once, not when convenient, but daily. That is how growth compounds. One brave act stacked on another, one uncomfortable step taken with resolve. Think of a tree, majestic and strong, but only because it never stopped growing. If it fails to grow roots, it withers. If it stops reaching toward the sun, it dies. You are no different. You must plant deeper beliefs, stronger principles. You must stretch toward higher aims, brighter purposes, and bolder visions. And you must do this every day, not because someone is watching, but because the man you are becoming depends on it. So now ask yourself, in the quiet space where truth can be heard, are your actions today making you stronger or smaller? Are you moving toward the man you admire, or simply repeating the man you're trying to outgrow? Life is not waiting, and neither should you. Growth doesn't knock on your door. You must chase it. You must earn it. The life you want, the strength you crave, the peace you seek, they're not found in who you already are, but in who you're willing to become. The man who endures outlasts the man who rushes. Greatness never hurries. It doesn't crash into your life like lightning or erupt overnight demanding attention. It moves slowly, quietly, building itself moment by moment, action by action, choice by choice, unfolding like a structure of stone, brick by brick, over time, with no shortcuts allowed. The man who endures is the man who finishes. Not the one who sprints in excitement, but the one who keeps walking when excitement fades. Endurance is the ultimate proof that what you say you want, you truly desire. Yet most men fall in love with speed. They crave the rush of early progress, the thrill of instant reward. They chase applause before they've earned the silence. They want results without repetition. They imagine a life of ease where success comes quickly. And when it doesn't, they stumble, quit, or change direction. But here's the truth. Success never visits the impatient. It avoids the man who treats it like a race and rewards the one who treats it like a life. The one who keeps moving forward when feelings fade, when setbacks multiply, when nothing seems to work. So what does endurance look like? It's not grand or dramatic. It isn't loud. It's in the quiet mornings when your body begs for rest, but you rise anyway. It's in the failure that knocks the wind from your lungs, but you try again. It's in the days when the path disappears, the map crumbles, the support fades, and you still take a step. Not because it's easy, not because you feel like it, but because the mission is still alive inside you. Endurance is sacred. It's what separates those who want the reward from those who become worthy of it. To build this kind of strength, you must embrace the long game, wield patience like a sword, and wear consistency like armor. Remind yourself again and again that the man who wins isn't the one who starts loudest, shines brightest, or talks longest. It's the one who finishes, the one who outlasts, the one who refuses to vanish when it gets hard. Endurance isn't glamorous, but its power is unmatched. Because when others stop, when others break, when others step off the path, you keep walking. And with every quiet step, you widen the gap. Think of a mountain. At the base, the crowds gather, men full of energy, excitement, motivation. Everyone is ready. Everyone is eager. But as the climb begins, the air thins, the terrain shifts, the weather turns, and slowly, men fall away. Some stop for comfort. Some turn back in fear. Others insist the timing isn't right. But one man doesn't stop. Step after grinding step, he climbs. He doesn't complain. He doesn't boast. He just continues. And when he finally reaches the summit, there is no fanfare, no cameras, no applause, just silence. And in that silence, clarity. A sacred realization. I did what I said I would do. That is greatness. That is enough. The world won't always notice your endurance. It won't always clap when you rise again. But that's not why you do it. You do it because you made a promise to yourself. And the man who keeps his promises, no matter how long it takes, becomes unstoppable. He cannot be shaken by delay, broken by silence, or fooled by the shallow rewards of speed. He's after something real, something lasting, something earned. So now, with complete honesty, ask yourself, are you chasing speed, or are you building stamina? Are you addicted to quick progress, or committed to progress that endures? Will you still show up when no one's watching? Will you keep moving when no one is clapping? Will you finish what you started when the path is empty, your legs are tired, and no one is urging you forward? Because that climb, that work, that persistence is what builds greatness. That is the effort that outlives applause. That is endurance. And only a few ever reach the summit, not because they are the strongest, but because they refuse to stop. You cannot grow without friction. Growth doesn't happen in silence or arrive wrapped in ease. It demands pressure, it demands opposition, it demands the friction of becoming. Without resistance, there is no strength. Without conflict, no character. And without discomfort, you cannot stretch into who you're meant to become without discomfort. You may long for peace, and that's a worthy desire. But understand this. Peace is not the absence of struggle. Peace is the strength you build through it. It's the stillness that arrives after the battle, not because there was no war, but because you won. Yet most people recoil at the first sign of pressure. They run from criticism, hide from difficulty, avoid confrontation, and call it toxicity. But that avoidance carries a heavy cost. When you reject friction, you reject growth. You remain smooth, unchallenged, unchanged. And smooth men never cut through life. A dull blade cannot pierce resistance. If your edges are never tested, you'll never know your true capacity. Just as a blade is sharpened on a grindstone, you are sharpened by the grind of life. Friction doesn't break you. It shapes you. It sands down the ego, polishes your purpose, and strengthens the will. But only if you stay in the process. Only if you resist the urge to flinch. Most flinch. They complain, escape, or justify staying soft. But the man who stands still under pressure gains what few ever do. Power without noise, strength without show, confidence that needs no proof, because it has already been earned. So what is friction truly? It's not only the grand battles, but the subtle daily chiseling. It's when criticism stings, but you don't deny it. You examine it. It's when someone speaks a hard truth, and instead of defending your flaws, you thank them. It's the mistake that bruises your ego, and instead of retreating, you say, let's try again. It's the conversation that scares you, the decision that stretches you, the challenge that threatens your comfort zone. These are not curses, they are chisels. And chisels never arrive to destroy. They arrive to reveal, to carve out the strong, focused, disciplined man that comfort keeps hidden. Picture a craftsman working with wood. The process is not gentle. There's grinding, scraping, splinters, dust in the air. It's loud, messy, and the material resists. Yet the craftsman persists. He applies pressure with purpose. He uses his tools not to destroy, but to define. Slowly, shape emerges, smoothness appears, strength is revealed. The beauty of the final piece exists because of friction, not in spite of it. And you are no different. You are the raw material, and life is the craftsman. The question is, will you allow it to shape you? Or will you resist and remain unfinished? The hard truth is this: the life you want, the peace you crave, the strength you admire, it will never come through avoidance. It will not be handed to the man who chooses only ease. It belongs to the man who says, yes, this struggle is part of me, and I will not run from it. He uses the pain, learns from the tension, grows through what others avoid. He stops wishing for a path without challenge and starts working with the challenge he's been given. And the beautiful thing is, once you've faced enough friction, peace begins to form, not around you, but within you. You realize the world can be chaotic, people can criticize, life can push and pull, but you remain steady. You are not fragile. You are not confused. You've been through the grind. You've been sharpened, and now you carry that edge everywhere you go. So let me ask you, are you avoiding discomfort or using it to sharpen your edge? Are you running from resistance or turning into it like a blade against stone? Because the difference between the man who folds and the man who forges isn't talent. It is an opportunity. It's his relationship with friction. One fears it, the other uses it. Discomfort is not a signal to stop. It's a signal that you're close to something real, something meaningful. And when you learn to face it with calm and courage, you begin to transform into someone rare, someone who cannot be dulled no matter how hard life presses against you. That's the choice before you. Not whether you will face struggle. You will. The real choice is whether you treat that struggle as an enemy or as your greatest sharpening stone. The mind follows the command of the will. Your body is capable of incredible things. It can endure pain, repeat movements, follow routines, execute commands. But every action begins with thought, and thought itself must answer to something higher, the will. This is the true hierarchy of power in a man's life. Will commands thought. Thought commands action. Action produces results. Break that chain at the top, and everything beneath it falls apart. Without will, discipline fails, dreams decay, progress halts. Because the engine of growth doesn't begin in the body or even in the mind. It begins in the will to start. And most men never master this. They obsess over habits, routines, motivation, but they never grab hold of the root. They wait for the right mindset, the perfect surge of energy, the spark of inspiration. But will does not wait. Will doesn't ask for the weather. It doesn't beg for better conditions. It steps forward in the dark and says, do it anyway. That is its power. It moves without applause, acts without permission, and commands when everything else would collapse. And that is what must be trained before all else. Why is willpower so rare? Why do so few develop it? Because it asks for something almost no one wants to give: self-leadership. Not external pressure, not accountability, not the eyes of a crowd. Will asks you to rule yourself in silence, to act when no one will know, to follow through when no one will reward you. It demands that you become your own master, your own coach, your own commander, your own enforcer. It's not a comfortable role, but it is the most powerful one a man can assume. Willpower is not a gift, it is a muscle. You train it through repetition. And like any muscle, it doesn't grow by accident, it grows through resistance. Every time you want to break your word and don't, your will strengthens. Every time you want to quit but don't, your will grows sharper. You don't begin with monumental feats, you begin small. You make clear, precise promises to yourself. I rise at dawn. I do not eat what weakens me. I finish what I start. I do not lie, not to others, and not to myself. These declarations are simple, but they are sacred because each one builds the structure of your inner authority. Soon, you no longer need emotion to act or motivation to move. You only need your word. There is clarity in this way of living, a strength that doesn't fade when motivation does. Picture a general in the middle of a war. The sky is black with smoke. His men are shaken. Supplies are low. Morale is crumbling. Every face turns to him. And what does he do? He doesn't panic, he doesn't run. His eyes stay sharp, his shoulders square, and he issues one clear, unwavering command: advance. They follow not because the path is certain, but because the general is. His certainty becomes their strength, his resolve their rhythm. That general is you. That battlefield is your life. Your thoughts are the soldiers, your body the army, and your will. That is the command that cuts through chaos and brings order to doubt. Understand this. Your thoughts have no right to rule you. They are tools, not masters. They exist to obey a higher voice. And when that voice is clear, when your will is firm, your thoughts align. They stop wavering. They stop negotiating, and they move in the direction you decide. When your thoughts fall in line, so will your actions. And when your actions align, your results cannot be denied. But what happens when you fail to lead yourself? The opposite. Your thoughts run wild, pulling you toward pleasure, distraction, and escape. They give you 100 reasons not to do what you promised. And without will, you follow them. You drift, you delay, you spiral. Because when will is absent, the mind is not strong. It's loud but unclear. And the body, obeying that confusion, goes nowhere. Days pass. Promises break. The man grows weaker, not from lack of potential, but from lack of leadership. So ask yourself honestly, have you taken command? Are you living by your will or by your moods? Do you act because it's right or only because it feels good? Do your thoughts lead your body, or does your will lead them all? The man who commands himself is rare. But when you meet him, you know it. He doesn't shout or boast. He moves calmly, consistently, without hesitation. He keeps his word. He follows through. He leads himself where others beg to be led. And because of that, his life begins to take on a shape others cannot explain. Quietly, brick by brick, he builds a fortress within. A will so strong that neither fear nor failure can shake it. That is what you must build. Not just habits, not just routines. Will, the highest authority within you, the power that governs all others. And it begins today with one command you keep. If it's hard, it probably matters. Hard is never a reason to stop. It is not a red flag telling you to turn back. It's a signal, clear and undeniable, that you're standing on sacred ground. When something feels heavy, intimidating, or uncertain, it's often because it matters. The task that scares you is the one that shapes you. The challenge you resist is the one that refines you. The weight you avoid is the very one that builds you. That's the paradox of growth. The more resistance you feel, the more aligned it is with your destiny. Why? Because anything meaningful demands transformation. And transformation is never convenient. It doesn't wait until you feel ready. It never comes without cost. You must stretch beyond your current self. You must abandon old comforts, outdated stories, habits that once served you but now hold you back. You cannot step into a bigger life while clinging to a smaller identity. That's why hard things appear as guardians at the gate. They don't block you to punish you. They block you to prepare you. To pass through, you must change. You must grow stronger, sharper, braver. That's the design. Difficulty is not a mistake, it's the method. And once you realize this, everything shifts. You stop running from hard things and begin to see them as invitations. So when something feels hard, don't retreat. Don't distract yourself. Don't talk your way out of it. Instead, ask, why is this hard? What in me must grow to carry this? That question changes everything. It moves your focus from fear to transformation. It reminds you that the burden reveals the level. Just like in a game where bigger bosses guard greater treasures, in life, the hardest challenges often stand closest to your breakthrough. You must become bigger to lift them. And in doing so, you step closer to the person you were meant to be. But what are these hard things, really? They're not always grand gestures or monumental tasks. Often, the hardest things are the simplest truths we avoid. Speaking up when silence feels safer, leading when you feel unready, forgiving someone who hasn't asked, letting go of what you thought you couldn't live without, or finishing what you started when every part of you wants to quit. These are the real thresholds, each one a doorway that demands effort. And once you cross them, you unlock a stronger version of yourself. Here's the practice. Choose one hard thing you've been avoiding. Just one. The call you haven't made, the task you've delayed, the habit you've resisted, the truth you've withheld. Pick it and do it first. Before you rationalize, before you negotiate, before you shrink, just begin. Push through the resistance, finish, Then pause and notice the shift inside you. Your posture steadier, your voice more grounded, your inner critic suddenly quiet. That's the power of meeting the challenge head-on. You gather proof that you can, and that proof becomes strength. Picture standing before a massive iron gate, heavy and rusted, locked by fear and time. Most walk past, saying it's too much effort, maybe someday. They search for lighter doors. But you stop. You place your hands on the cold metal. You feel the resistance. You don't turn away. You push, strain, and sweat, and slowly, inch by inch, the gate begins to move. Behind it lies a path few will ever see. The life you've imagined, not given, but earned. That's what it means to face the hard things. It's not about proving yourself to the world. It's about proving to yourself that the door can move, that you are not small, not powerless. You've simply been waiting at the right gate, hoping it would open for you. But life doesn't open with wishes. It opens with will. So ask yourself now, what gate have you been avoiding? What task, truth, or conversation have you pushed aside because it felt too heavy? And what if the very thing you've labeled too hard is the key? Not just to a new result, but to a new version of you. On the other side of that gate lies clarity. Confidence and strength don't wait there for you to find them. They are the reward for the man who pushes through. The longer you delay, the higher the price. Each hesitation adds a silent weight. You may not notice it at first, but it builds quietly until one day you look back and realize the cost of waiting was far greater than the difficulty of starting. Time slips past unnoticed, and every time you whisper, "Not yet," life simply nods and walks away with what could have been yours. You may believe waiting keeps you safe, that pausing makes you cautious or strategic. But waiting becomes a habit faster than action ever will. And that habit carries a hidden toll. Lost years, drained energy, missed moments. The truth is, delay is the most expensive decision you'll ever make. It comforts your present while taxing your future. It gives relief now, only to leave regret later. Think about how many times you've told yourself, "I'll start tomorrow." That soft, convincing phrase has stolen more dreams than failure ever could. Because tomorrow becomes a cycle, a loop that traps you. You don't move forward, you only repeat yesterday under a new excuse. Meanwhile, the path before you grows colder, the fire inside you fades, and the life you want drifts further away. Delay is never harmless. It compounds. One missed hour becomes a missed day. One postponed decision turns into a season of stagnation. Every hour you spend stalling is an hour you could have been building. Momentum is real, and so is decay. There is no such thing as standing still. You're either moving toward the man you're meant to be, or quietly slipping away from him. But why do we delay? Why do we avoid the very things we claim matter most? The answer is simple, though rarely spoken, because beginnings are hard. Starting is where resistance hides. Taking action forces you into the unknown, and the unknown is uncomfortable. It demands risk, it demands effort, and effort feels inconvenient when comfort is so close. So we bargain with time, telling ourselves soothing stories. I need more clarity. I need better tools. I need the perfect timing. But underneath it all, the truth is clear. You don't need more time, you need more courage. It's not knowledge that's missing, it's the will to begin. That first step, that leap into motion, is the gate to everything. The remedy is simple, even brutal. Start now. Not when you feel ready, not when fear disappears, not when the stars align. Now. Begin with what you have, where you are. It will feel messy. It will feel uncertain. You will question yourself. But remember this, movement creates clarity. Every step forward reveals the next. Action, not endless thought or waiting, is what shows you the way. You think your way into hesitation, but you act your way into progress. Picture a man standing at the edge of a wide river. On the far side lies everything he wants, his goals, his peace, his growth, his future. The water is rough, the sky is dark. He says, "I'll cross when the wind calms, when a bridge appears, when I'm better prepared." So he waits. One season, then another. Years pass. The river stays the same. The storm still rages, and no bridge ever comes. Then another man arrives. He sees the same water, feels the same fear, but he dives in. Cold, shivering, struggling. Yet he swims and reaches the other side. Not because he had more, but because he began. That's the difference. Not talent, not timing, initiative. One man waits for perfect conditions, the other acts despite them. and the world always rewards the one who moves. So ask yourself, how much more are you willing to lose just because you didn't start? How many days will you trade for hesitation? How much of your life will you hand over to the false comfort of maybe tomorrow? The truth is simple. You're not stuck, you're stalling. The door isn't locked, the gate isn't closed, but it will never open until you push. Life doesn't hand breakthroughs to the man who waits. It gives them to the man who dares. You don't need more time, more advice, or more readiness. You need to start, and you need to start before fear convinces you to wait again. Before doubt wraps itself around your potential and calls it protection. Before comfort becomes your cage, start now. Not perfectly, not loudly, just start. One step, one task, one hard thing today instead of tomorrow. Because every time you act, you take back your time, reclaim your power, and most importantly, you take back your life from the grip of hesitation. That is the true beginning of becoming the man you were always meant to be. Resistance is not your enemy. It's the sign you're moving the right way. The moment you choose to rise, resistance will meet you like an old rival. It never fails. The second your foot leaves the ground of comfort, you'll feel it. Pressure, friction, doubt, delay. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're finally doing something real. Yet many mistake this moment, treating resistance like a warning, a red light, a reason to stop or turn back. But that's the fatal error. Resistance is not a signal to retreat. It is the proof you've stepped onto the right path. Nothing of value lies in plain sight. Nothing meaningful is simply handed to you. Everything you want, growth, clarity, strength, freedom, waits behind a wall. And that wall isn't there to punish you. It's a filter, a test, a necessary challenge that separates those who only wish from those who truly will. So when you feel resistance pressing against your chest, ask yourself, how badly do you want this? They want the outcome, but not the opposition. They crave the reward, yet tremble at the requirement. But here's the truth. The greater the resistance, the more meaningful the pursuit. You don't wrestle with fear over trivial things. Resistance only appears when something important is at stake. And the stronger it grows, the more certain you can be. You're standing at the edge of transformation. Something that demands more focus, more strength, more discipline. It's not a door slamming shut. It's a door that insists you earn the right to open it. So why does resistance appear at all? Why doesn't the path clear the moment we choose well, or when our heart is in the right place? Because growth always demands sacrifice. You cannot rise while remaining the same. A part of you must die for a stronger self to emerge. Your doubt, your excuses, your attachment to ease. Resistance is the fire that burns them away. It is the necessary battle between the man you've been and the man you're trying to become. When resistance comes, and it will, you have two choices. Most men retreat. They stall, they turn back, and whisper, maybe this isn't for me. But that is the voice of comfort, not clarity. Only a few respond differently. They lean in. They stop asking, why is this so hard? And instead ask, who must I become to overcome this? That shift changes everything, because the right question doesn't weaken you. It strengthens your will. You stop seeing resistance as a barrier. You begin to see resistance as a mirror, reflecting who you are and demanding growth. You start to recognize the enemy in all its disguises: hesitation, fatigue, fear, perfectionism. These are not roadblocks, but the familiar tricks of an old system trying to keep you the same. And you respond, not with delay, but with relentless action. That's the one thing resistance cannot withstand. Constant movement, the refusal to stop, the decision to push forward even when every part of you screams to quit. Action, even imperfect, becomes your weapon against resistance. Picture a man walking across a vast plain. He begins full of energy, clarity, and light. Then comes wind, darkness, noise, resistance. Most turn back, but this man lowers his head, digs in his heels, and keeps walking. Not faster, not louder, just forward. And when the storm finally passes, he stands alone. Not because others lacked ability, but because they lacked the will. And now he is stronger, sharper, wiser, not from avoiding the storm, but from walking through it. That is the essence of greatness. It isn't talent or timing, but the ability to keep moving precisely because it's hard. Every man who has built something lasting has stared resistance in the face and moved forward anyway. Not because he felt no fear, but because he chose. This storm will not break me. it will build me. So ask yourself, honestly and without excuse, when was the last time you kept going simply because it was hard? Not for reward, not because someone was watching, but because something deep inside you knew. This is the price of the next level. Resistance is not punishment or rejection. It is proof. Proof that you are chasing something that matters, stepping into a version of yourself that doesn't yet exist, but can, if you endure. It's the signal that you're walking the path of transformation. And as every man of substance knows, transformation is never free. It demands a price. It pulls you through fire, but on the other side waits clarity, strength, and certainty. Not given, but earned. So when resistance rises, and it always will, don't flinch, don't pause. Push, lean in, fight forward. Because if the path feels hard, it means it's yours. And if you dare to keep walking, every ounce of struggle becomes proof that greatness was waiting just beyond the wall. Your word to yourself is your power. The most sacred promise you'll ever make is the one whispered in silence, when no one else is listening. Not the vows shouted under bright lights, not the declarations posted for applause, but the quiet commitment made in your own mind. That promise is different. It is the foundation, the root, the thread tying your identity to your future. And if you break it, you lose more than opportunity. You lose something deeper, your power. The power of self-respect, the power of certainty, the power that comes only from knowing your word means something. And most men never protect this promise. Most men speak carelessly, making casual promises to change, to rise, to take action. But their follow-through is shallow. I'll wake up early, they say, until the bed feels warm and the morning heavy. I'll change, they declare, until comfort pulls them back. I'll lead, they insist, until leadership demands risk. And with every broken vow, something inside fades. Their belief weakens, their identity blurs, their strength dissolves into smoke. But there is another kind of man. He isn't louder, he doesn't boast. When he speaks, he listens, not because others hold him accountable, but because he holds himself. When he says, I will, he does. No matter the mood, no matter the conditions. His confidence isn't borrowed from praise or inflated by applause. It is built layer by layer, on the back of consistency. He trusts himself because he has earned that trust. And trust like this cannot be bought, gifted, or faked. What does his promise look like in practice? It shows up in small disciplines, simple rituals, quiet efforts that may be invisible to the world but priceless to his soul. It's the alarm at 5 a.m. and rising, not because he feels like it, but because he said he would. It's finishing a task no one else will ever see. It's choosing to eat clean, speak truth, work deeply, not because it's easy, but because those were the terms of his promise. These are the moments where your word is tested, not in public declarations, but in private decisions. And how you handle them decides who you become. The man who breaks his inner vow begins to decay from the inside out. Others may not notice at first, but he feels it. The hesitation, the self-doubt, the fog in the mirror when he no longer believes his own words. But the man who keeps that vow sharpens with every repetition. His word gains weight, and he can feel it. When he speaks, he knows he'll follow through, and others sense it too. His presence carries weight. His silence commands more respect than another man's speech. Because he isn't performing, he's embodying something rare, honor. Not the kind handed out with medals, but the kind forged in the dark, woven into the way he wakes, moves, speaks, and decides. Want to build this kind of power? Begin with one promise, not 10. Don't try to overhaul your entire life, just one specific vow. I won't snooze the alarm. I'll write for 30 minutes. I won't eat that today. Keep it for 7 days. Hold it when you're tired, when it's raining, when no one would fault you for quitting. Then stretch it, 10 days, a month, a season. Slowly, your word becomes law, not flexible, not optional, but fixed. And once that happens, once your word becomes an anchor, you become unshakable. Picture a stonemason working before sunrise. The world still sleeps, the sky gray, rain tapping softly against the earth. No crowd watches, no cheers rise. Yet there he is, laying bricks one by one, morning after morning, in silence, in solitude. A year later, a fortress stands, strong, tall, resilient. Not built by inspiration, not built by motivation, built by honor. That is what your word becomes. It becomes a structure that guards your discipline, protects your vision, and declares to the world, "I am who I say I am." So pause and look inward. Do you trust yourself? When you speak, do your actions echo your words? Or have your promises turned into smoke, drifting away by morning? Because if your word means nothing to you, it will mean nothing to anyone else. And when that happens, doors begin to close. Not because others doubt you, but because you've stopped believing in yourself. Opportunity retreats from the man who abandons his own promises, yet it runs toward the one whose word is unshakable. A man who honors his commitments, not out of obligation, but because it defines who he is. Keep your word, and life bends in your direction. People will feel your strength before you speak. Doors will stay open longer, and the mirror will reflect pride instead of pity. But break it, and even your own reflection will turn away. The promises you make to yourself are the foundation of your life. Build them weak, and the structure crumbles. Build them strong, and nothing can bring it down. So make your vow, honor it, and become the man whose word is not just spoken, but kept. Because the man who can wait wins. Most people don't fail from lack of effort. They fail because they quit too soon. They show up with ambition, eager to build, rise, and change. But when results don't come quickly, they retreat. They confuse delay with denial. They believe if something doesn't bloom by morning, it was never meant to grow. And so they walk away, not because the seed was dead, but because their patience was. That is the quiet tragedy of so many lives. They stop, not at the limit of their effort, but at the limit of their expectation. Greatness doesn't move at the speed of urgency. It follows a deeper, slower timeline. It unfolds quietly, gradually, only for those who endure the discomfort of not yet seeing results. Patience isn't just a virtue. It's the gatekeeper of destiny. It's what separates the man who begins from the man who finishes. Energy is common at the start, but endurance is rare when the road grows long. Yet many mistake waiting for weakness, as if persistence without proof makes you lesser. But waiting is not weakness, it's strategy. It's the strength to move with conviction even when the path isn't clear, power held under control. The man who can wait without losing fire, who keeps building without applause, who stays steady while others quit, he holds the real advantage. While others panic, he prepares. While they doubt, he sharpens. While they chase shortcuts, he lays a stronger foundation. But let's be honest, patience is hard. It's not romantic or glamorous. It's often quiet, lonely, and it tests your faith in what no one else can see. Results don't come on your schedule. They don't care how badly you want them, or how many weeks you've worked. They arrive only when the timing is right, not for you, but for the result itself. And that's what makes patience painful. You do the right things, yet nothing changes. People question you. They don't see anything blooming, so they mock what they can't understand. They call your persistence foolish, your faith naive. And sometimes, you start to believe them. Stillness begins to feel like stagnation. Days blur together, and you wonder if any of it is working. You question if you're fooling yourself. But here's the truth. Waiting is not passive. It's not sitting with folded hands, hoping. It's preparation. It's watering dry soil. It's showing up to the field, even when no life is in sight. Waiting is refining your skill, sharpening your mind, and deepening your roots. Because the deeper the roots, the stronger the tree when storms arrive. That's what waiting does. It builds below before anything appears above. So what must you do in the silence? In the presence of delay, you endure with discipline. You keep showing up, keep building, keep moving forward. Even when results are invisible, especially then. That's the real test. Most men don't fall when it's hard. They fall when it's quiet. When the noise fades, the applause stops, and progress hides. That's when your belief must speak louder than doubt. That's when your will becomes your witness. Picture a farmer in early season. He rises before dawn, tills the ground, waters the soil day after day, week after week. But the land stays dry. No shoots, no green, no visible return. Most would quit. They'd say it isn't working, curse the field, blame the weather, and walk away. But he stays. Not because he's blind, but because he understands the process. He knows that beneath the surface, something is happening. Slowly, quietly, but inevitably. And one morning, it breaks through. Not as a miracle, but as a result. Not suddenly, but surely. That is patience. And that is power. So ask yourself, are you quitting on your vision just because time is testing you? Are you abandoning progress because it hasn't performed on demand? Or are you willing to endure the season that breaks the weak? Can you hold the line through the drought? Can you keep believing when others walk away? Because here's the truth. The man who waits wisely wins quietly. He doesn't need to announce his prayers or prove his process. He stays the course. And then, one day, when the results come, when the field bursts with fruit, when the dream takes shape, people point and call him lucky. They don't see what he endured. They don't remember the silence he walked through. They only notice the harvest. But he remembers. He knows the truth. He knows the cost. He knows he didn't win because he was the fastest, the smartest, or the loudest. He won because he didn't stop. And neither should you. If you quit once, it gets easier to quit again. The first time it stings. Shame presses on your chest. A bitter taste lingers, and a heavy weight settles inside. You feel the disappointment, the realization that you could have gone further, but chose not to. You step back from the edge, not because you had to, but because it was hard. That's the truth most never say aloud. Quitting hurts, but only the first time. The danger is what follows. The second time, the sting is softer. The voice of regret grows quieter. By the third time, quitting feels almost reasonable. It becomes the easier path. And before long, it turns into a habit. Not a conscious decision, but a reflex. Something you do without even realizing it. That's the danger of quitting. It doesn't just stop progress, it rewires your identity. It teaches your mind that discomfort is a wall, not a doorway. That resistance means retreat. That the only logical response to struggle is escape. And your mind listens. It adapts. It records every time you backed out, every promise you broke, every whisper of, just not today, that became law. Soon, the thought this is hard turns into, I can't do hard things. Once that belief takes root, the damage runs deep. You stop attempting what stretches you. You stop reaching. You stop risking. Not because life took your power, but because you gave it away, one unfinished goal at a time. But there is another path, a harder path. Yes, but the only one worth taking. The path of finishing what you start. So when it hurts, when the outcome is uncertain, even when you fail along the way, you keep going. Not because you're confident, but because quitting is no longer an option. This path doesn't just bring better results. It forges a stronger you, resilient, reliable, relentless. And when you walk it, something shifts. You stop asking, can I do this? And start declaring, I finish what I start. That becomes your identity. That's what your mind learns to believe. And that belief transforms everything. It becomes the force that carries you through the days you don't feel like moving, through failures that would have broken the old you, through the silence when no one notices your effort. But how do you break the cycle of quitting? How do you undo what's already been learned? You choose one thing, one task, one commitment, one goal that truly challenges you, and you finish it no matter what. You remove the exit signs, close the escape hatch, burn the bridge back to excuses, and tell yourself, there is no way but forward. That single act of finishing is powerful, not because of what you achieve, but because of what it rewrites. It begins to unlearn the old pattern, to rewire the reflex. Picture a man caught in a storm. The sky is dark, rain lashes his face, the trail ahead muddy and steep. He pauses, remembering the last time he turned back, the sting of quitting, the way it haunted him, how it made the next challenge heavier. This time, instead of retreating, he plants his foot firmly, clenches his jaw, and takes one step forward. That step doesn't change the storm, but it changes him. It rebuilds trust in his own ability to endure. It chips away at the lie that quitting is easier. With each step, quitting grows harder, and winning becomes more natural. Once your identity shifts to, I finish what I start, every choice aligns with that belief. Shortcuts lose their appeal, distractions fade, endurance grows, and your reputation, both to others and to yourself, sharpens. You become the kind of man others can rely on, but more importantly, the man you can rely on. And that inner trust is the foundation of every great achievement. So pause for a moment and reflect. Look back on your unfinished commitments, the goals that gathered dust, the promises made in excitement but abandoned in exhaustion. Were those goals truly impossible, or did you just train your mind to quit? Did you step back because it was too hard, or because you had already taught yourself that quitting was acceptable? You are not powerless. You are not stuck. You are simply standing at a fork in the road. One path leads to the same cycle of almost and maybe. The other leads to a new identity. An identity built not through loud declarations, but through quiet determination. You don't need to prove yourself to the world. You don't need to finish 10 things at once. You just need to keep one promise. Finish what you start. Let that single act define you, and then build again from there. Because the man who stops quitting becomes the man who starts winning. Not all at once, but step by step, storm by storm, until one day quitting is no longer an option, because deep down he knows, I don't back down. Most people talk. Few build. Talk is cheap, lighter than air, easier than breathing. It costs nothing to speak of dreams, to promise a future, to paint visions of who you'll become. The world is full of voices describing what could be, what they'll do, what they plan to achieve. But the truth always stands when the noise fades. Only a few ever choose the harder road, the path of building. It's not filled with noise or empty intentions, but with bricks stacked one by one into something real. These few don't just leave behind words, they leave behind legacy. Look around and you'll see men overflowing with ideas, enthusiasm, and big ambitions. But if you watch closely, not what they say, but what they do, you'll notice the difference. Most are speaking sentences. Only a few are taking steps. Words without movement are just wind, scattering and fading. But effort turns into evidence. Proof that cannot be argued with or ignored. So why do so few build? Why do most stay in the comfort of talk instead of the grind of creation? Because building is slow, and in the beginning, thankless. Talk draws an audience. Building demands solitude. Talking feeds the ego. Building tests your patience. Building makes you invisible before it ever makes you impressive. No one claps for a foundation. No one celebrates the first hours of labor. Building offers no instant reward. In a world obsessed with speed, applause, and visibility, building is rebellion. It is lonely work. While others broadcast and perform, the builder goes silent. He's not seeking approval. He's seeking impact. And impact requires time, grit, and relentless effort when no one is watching. That's why it's rare. That's why so few ever hold anything solid in their hands. Because most chase the feeling of significance without paying the price to earn it. But if you want to live differently, you must be the one who builds. The one who moves while others talk, who lays bricks while others change plans, who finishes while others only dream. There's no glamour at the start, no cheering crowd in the middle. But when the dust settles, when the storm quiets, when every voice grows tired, the builder stands taller. Not because he spoke more, but because he did more. So what should you build? Not just businesses or fortunes. Start with yourself. Build your discipline, your character, your skill, your habits, your vision. Not all at once, but one stone at a time. One routine repeated, one decision honored, 1 hour worked while others sleep. Build in silence. Build without needing validation. Let your work be the evidence. Let consistency speak for you. Picture a carpenter rising early, heading to the site with no crowd, no applause, just him, his tools, and the plan in his mind. Each day he hammers, measures, cuts, and lifts. The weather shifts, his mood changes, but the work remains. For weeks there is only noise and dust. Then one day, it takes shape. A wall, a frame, a roof, a home. People marvel, asking, "When did you do this?" He doesn't marvel. He nods, because he always knew. He didn't need their eyes to believe in the structure. He saw it long before they did. That's what it means to build. Working when no one's watching, believing in what no one else sees, continuing when the applause fades or never comes, trusting the process even when the result is still invisible. That is power. That is purpose. And that is the path of the rare few who don't just talk about life, they build one. Yes, it's easier to perform, to announce, to impress with words. But don't confuse articulation with achievement, passion with persistence, or admiration with alignment to what truly matters. Real builders don't act to impress, they act to transform. So ask yourself honestly, are you building something real, or just repeating lines people want to hear? Are your days stacking into something lasting, or are they filled with empty gestures that vanish like smoke? Talking costs nothing. Delivering costs everything. You know what matters by what you repeat. You know what's real by what you continue. And you know who you are, not by what you say, but by what you build when no one claps. So speak less, move more. Let the work speak when the words fade. Lay the brick, make the cut, do the work. Because in the end, the voice that echoes through time isn't the loudest. It's the one that left something standing. The difference between the man who talks and the man who builds is action. So act every day, without waiting, without excuse, without applause. Just move forward, again and again, until your silence becomes something the world cannot ignore. You win when you do what others refuse to do. The secret to success isn't hidden in some ancient manuscript or locked away in mystery. It's right in front of you. Clear, almost painfully obvious. Most men already know what to do. They can list the actions, recall the principles, repeat the disciplines. They've read the books, heard the speeches, watched the videos. But knowing is not the same as doing, and that's where the line is drawn. The truth of success is simple, yet its execution is rare. Not because it's impossible, but because it's uncomfortable. And the average man avoids discomfort like fire. But here lies your advantage. The moment you lean into what others reject, you create separation. Not from talent, not from luck, but from willingness. The willingness to do what most won't. The world is crowded with people who crave success, yet recoil at the structure required to earn it. They want the crown, but not the cross. They dream of reward, yet freeze at the first sign of responsibility. Driven by feelings, not principles, their potential rusts while they polish excuses. But you must choose differently. Train yourself daily, not once, to lean into the labor they skip, to step forward when the crowd stalls, and to push even when the work feels tedious. Get up earlier, stay later, sweat more. Not to prove anything to others, but to become someone you respect. That's the difference between pretending to be powerful and truly becoming it. The quiet choices you make when no one is watching, the ones that never earn applause, are the real bricks of strength. These small moments separate the few who rise from the many who stay the same. What do most people avoid? They skip early mornings, choose comfort over cold showers, indulgence over discipline. They dodge hard conversations because silence is easier. They distract themselves instead of reflecting deeply. They run from responsibility because it feels heavy. These aren't grand or heroic acts, but that's what makes them matter. The true advantage doesn't come from doing the impossible. It comes from doing what's unpopular. Small disciplines compound into something unshakable. So how do you apply this truth? Start by noticing. Pay attention to what people around you avoid, at home, at work, even in their own thoughts. Where do they hesitate? What task do they delay or pass on? Once you see it, run toward it. Not with ego, but with quiet purpose. Make those avoided tasks your training ground. Build your identity on that friction. Because the man who does what others avoid becomes the man others depend on. The man others respect. The man no one can ignore. Picture this. A team of men tasked with clearing a field. They arrive early, tools in hand, ready to work. The field is scattered with heavy stones. Most men notice the largest ones and step around them, muttering, "Too heavy, someone else will handle that." They circle the edges, looking busy, heads down. But one man walks straight toward the biggest rock. He doesn't announce his effort. He grips the edge, digs in his heels, and begins to push. Inch by inch, it's hard and slow. It doesn't look impressive, yet he keeps going. By the end of the day, while others only cleared the easy surface, his section is transformed. The others glance over, puzzled. How did he get so much done? They don't realize he didn't do more. He did what they refused to do. That's the difference, the true divide. It's not about endless hours or burnout. It's about direction. Deliberate, consistent, uncommon direction. Most will always drift with the current of what's comfortable, accepted, and average. But when has the current ever led to greatness? To rise above, you must step out of the stream, walk against the flow, and choose the harder path on purpose. That is where real momentum begins. Momentum isn't built in sudden bursts of intensity, but in quiet, repeatable choices to face what most people fear. So ask yourself, are you just doing the minimum, checking boxes and calling it progress? Or are you taking the uncommon path? The one with no applause, no certainty, no instant payoff, but the one that forges something deeper in you? Are you becoming the man who runs straight at what others avoid? Because the path is open now, but it won't stay open forever. Each time you back away from discomfort, someone else steps into it. Each delay is another chance for someone else to move forward. And when the gates of success close behind the few who endured the hard road, the world will write stories about their talent and timing. But they'll know the truth. It wasn't magic, it was action. Simple, Unseen, unglamorous, uncommon. That's all it takes, to do what others won't and keep doing it. The hard thing you face today becomes your strength tomorrow. The pain in your chest as you fight fatigue, the silence as you work alone, the sacrifices no one claps for, none of it is wasted. It isn't a curse. It isn't punishment. It's process. The struggle you bear today transforms into power tomorrow, not just in your body, but in your spirit. A strength no mirror can show, yet written in your choices, in the way you walk, in your refusal to break. Every hard decision in solitude, every discipline kept without applause, every moment you persist when quitting would be easier, that's where true power is forged. These are not just moments. They are bricks, quiet and unseen, slowly building the fortress of your character. And when the wind howls, when pressure mounts, it is that fortress that keeps you standing while others collapse. Most will never build it because they refuse to endure the process that shapes it. But if you persist, you'll discover pain doesn't destroy you, it forges you. The man who moves with certainty, who commands respect without ever shouting, wasn't born that way. He was built in fire. His calm rose from chaos, his confidence from confusion, his strength from suffering. What once seemed impossible became natural, not because the world grew easier, but because he grew stronger. That's the shift, the elevation, the day the weight no longer breaks you, but builds you. So why do most never reach it? Why do they stay fragile, afraid, uncertain? Because they never leave the shallow end. They stay where it's safe, where effort is small and risk is low. They lift only what they know they can carry, stretch only to the edge of convenience. And so they remain light, not graceful, but hollow. Can you ever become deep without entering depth? Can you ever become powerful by only doing what's easy? And you must not walk that path. You must step into the fire. You must choose the hard thing, not as punishment, but as preparation. Face it with clear eyes and a steady heart, and declare, this will shape me. Not why me, but this is mine. The weight, the challenge, the burden, they were made for you. The hard thing is always the gateway, the threshold between who you are and who you can become. And you cannot cross it without pain. You cannot shortcut your way to strength. There are no hacks, no easy paths, only truth. And truth begins where comfort ends. So today, choose one hard thing, the very one you've been avoiding. You already know what it is, the conversation you've delayed, the habit you keep putting off, the decision you fear to make. Face it, not tomorrow, not when it's easier, but now. Face it fully, with no shortcuts, no complaints, no backup plans, just presence, discipline, and follow through. And when it's done, don't ask, was it worth it? Ask instead, what did it grow in me? Because that's what matters, not the result, not the outcome, but the man you became in the process. That is the true return on effort, the currency of growth. Not applause from others, but the deep, unshakable self-trust you earn each time you keep your word under pressure. Picture a young blacksmith at the forge, face flushed from heat, arms trembling under the hammer's weight. The steel resists, the air thickens, sweat burns his eyes. Yet he swings anyway, strike after strike. His body protests, but his will shouts louder. Years pass. The fire still burns, the hammer still falls. One day, he no longer trembles. His arms are strong, his swing steady, and his forge filled with tools admired by many. They marvel at the finished work, but they don't see the pain, the failures, the silent discipline. He remembers, though, and that pain now lives in every edge of his excellence. That is what awaits you. If you step forward, if you take the hammer and swing. Only when you stop floating on the surface and dive into the deep can you truly grow. You're not here to tiptoe through life. You're here to forge something. A soul that does not bend, a mind that does not flinch, a life that carries meaning. And forging is never gentle. It's heat, pressure, tension, and flame, but also the birthplace of what cannot be broken. That's your path, and it doesn't start with motivation, vision boards, or words spoken aloud. It begins the moment you stop avoiding pain and start using it as fuel, as fire, as form. So ask yourself honestly, what is the hard thing you're avoiding today? And more importantly, what strength might be waiting on the other side if you walk straight into it? This is how power is earned. This is how a man is forged, one hard thing at a time. So take the hammer, step into the fire, and begin. You don't become powerful by doing what's easy. You become powerful by doing what's necessary. Every challenge is a doorway to growth, and every time you push through, you rise above the average. Remember this: pain passes, but strength remains. So the next time fear whispers, quit, answer with action. Keep going, keep pushing, keep building. Because the man who forces himself to face the hard things is the man who becomes unstoppable. Wishing you health, happiness, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Mindset Daily.